we have yet another equation that we need to write, and we're going to be reacting nickel 2 chloride with sodium hydroxide. And so the last example is going to be reacting nickel 2 chloride with sodium hydroxide. First we need to write out the equation, see what that's going to look like. We have nickel 2 chloride. You should know what that formula is by now. We're going to be reacting it with sodium hydroxide. This is going to be yet another precipitation reaction. We're going to form nickel 2 hydroxide, and we're also going to form sodium chloride. So whenever I'm writing out a chemical equation, I always write out the equations or the formulas for the compounds that we're going to make, and then I balance. It's very important that you do it in that order. Don't try to balance the equation by changing the stoichiometry or by changing the coefficients on your compounds. Okay, so I can see that I need two chlorides here, so I'm going to put a 2 here and a 2 here. And so that means I have 2 hydroxides. Well, that makes sense there. 2 sodiums. Okay, everything should be balanced out here. Now this question's a little bit different than what we've worked before. We have been focused solely on trying to find out the mass of a precipitate, for example, in the last 2 examples. Well, this time, again, a little bit different. What they're asking us to do is tell how many milliliters of sodium hydroxide we're going to need to react with the nickel 2 chloride that we have. So we're told that we have 25.0 milliliters of nickel solution. That is 0.50 molar, right? So moles per liter. So again, I can get moles out of this. So what they're asking me is, how much of this sodium hydroxide solution am I going to use? Now, of course, how much I use is going to be dependent upon how concentrated the solution is. If the solution is very, very concentrated, then I'm not going to need to use very much. If it's very dilute, I might need to use a lot volume-wise. Okay? That's why it was critical that I was told the molarity of the sodium hydroxide solution. I know that it's 0.35 moles per liter. So to solve the problem, we need to again convert milliliters of nickel 2 chloride into liters, and we're going to be multiplying that by 0.5 moles of nickel 2 chloride per liter, and the liters cancel, and this should work out to be 0.0125 moles of nickel 2 chloride. That's how much nickel 2 chloride I have on hand. Okay. Now, I said that the amount of sodium hydroxide that I add is going to be dependent upon the concentration of the sodium hydroxide. Well, for sure. But it's also going to rely upon how much nickel I need to react with, of course. So now is where I need to relate the nickel chloride, nickel 2 chloride, to the sodium hydroxide. And we see that for every 1 mole of nickel 2 chloride I have, right, for every one of these, I need 2 sodium hydroxides. So I need 2 moles of sodium hydroxide for every 1 mole of nickel 2 chloride. And so this should work out to tell me that I'm going to need to be adding 0.0250 moles of sodium hydroxide to my reaction. Otherwise, I won't have added enough. Okay. So that 0.35 moles per liter, right, means that 1 liter is also 0.035 moles. So again, I can use this molarity 2 different ways. So when you see 0.35 molar, you need to think, okay, I can do this, or I can do this, right? This guy here means both of those things. So 0.0250 moles of sodium hydroxide what was I asked to find? I was asked to find the milliliters. So I want to take this and convert it into a volume. Well, 0.0250 moles of sodium hydroxide. And I'm going to use this conversion factor here. It means my moles are going to cancel, and I'll be left with liters up here. Okay. You should get 0.071429 liters. And I believe it asked how many milliliters. And we only have 2 sig figs. So I see 2 sig figs here and here. And it asks for milliliters. So the answer is going to be 71 milliliters. Okay. Now in practice, if you wanted to be sure that you formed all the nickel 2 hydroxide, you wouldn't want to add the perfect amount of sodium hydroxide. You'd probably want to add much more so that you had an excess.